The Preface to Poems by Wilfred Owen, read for LibriVox.org by David Wales. This book is not about heroes. English poetry is not yet fit to speak of them. Nor is it about deeds or lands, nor anything about glory, honor, dominion, or power, except war. Above all, this book is not concerned with poetry. The subject of it is war, and the pity of war. The poetry is in the pity. Yet these elegies are not to this generation. This is in no sense consolatory. They may be to the next. All the poet can do today is to warn. That is why the true poets must be truthful. If I thought the letters of this book would last, I might have used proper names. But if the spirit of it survives Prussia, my ambition and those names will be content. For they will have achieved themselves fresher fields than Flanders. Note: this preface was found in an unfinished condition among Wilfred Owen's papers. End of the Preface to Poems by Wilfred Owen. This recording is in the public domain.
For the Fallen by Lawrence Binyon. Read for LibriVox.org by Ruth Golding. With proud thanksgiving, a mother for her children, England mourns for her dead across the sea. Flesh of her flesh they were, spirit of her spirit, fallen in the cause of the free. Solemn the drums thrill. Death, august and royal, sings sorrow up into immortal spheres. There is music in the midst of desolation, and a glory that shines upon our tears. They went with songs to the battle. They were young, straight of limb, true of eye, steady and aglow. They were staunch to the end against odds uncounted. They fell with their faces to the foe. They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them. They mingle not with their laughing comrades again. They sit no more at familiar tables of home. They have no lot in our labour of the daytime. They sleep beyond England's foam. But where our desires are, and our hopes profound, felt as a wellspring that is hidden from sight, to the innermost heart of their own land they are known, as the stars are known to the night. As the stars that shall be bright when we are dust, moving in marches upon the heavenly plain, as the stars that are starry in the time of our darkness, to the end they remain. End of For the Fallen by Lawrence Binyon. This recording is in the public domain.
«Мама и убитый немцами вечер» by Владимир Маяковский. Read for LibriVox.org by Анастасия Солоха. По черным улицам белые матери судорожно простерлись, как по гробу глазет. Вплакались в орущих о побитом неприятеле. Ах, закройте, закройте глаза газет! Письмо. Мама, громче! Дым, дым, дым еще! Что вы мямлите, мама, мне? Видите, весь воздух вымощен громыхающим под ядрами камнем. Мама! Сейчас притащили израненный вечер. Крепился долго, кургузный, шершавый, и вдруг, надломивши тучные плечи, расплакался бедный на шее Варшавы. Звезды в платочках из синего ситца визжали. Убит, дорогой, дорогой мой! И глаз новолуния страшно косится, как мертвый кулак с зажатой обоймой. Сбежались смотреть литовские села, как поцелуем в обрубок вковано, слезя золотые глаза костелов, пальцы улиц ломала ковна. А вечер кричит, безногий, безрукий: «Неправда! Я еще могу-с выбриться в шпоры, в горящей мазурке выкрутить русый ус!» Звонок. «Что вы, мама? Белая-белая, как на гробе глазет. Оставьте! О нем это! Об убитом! Телеграмма! Ах, закройте! Закройте глаза газет!» End of «Мама и убитый немцами вечер» by Владимир Маяковский. This recording is in the public domain.
To Germany by Charles Hamilton Sawley. Read for LibriVox.org by John Hayward. You are blind, like us. Your hurt no man designed, and no man claimed the conquest of your land. But gropers both, through fields of thought confined, we stumble, and we do not understand. You only saw your future bigly planned, and we the tapering paths of our own mind, and in each other's dearest ways we stand and hiss, and hate, and the blind fight the blind. When it is peace, then we may view again with new-won eyes each other's truer form and wonder. Grown more loving, kind, and warm, we'll grasp firm hands and laugh at the old pain, when it is peace. But until peace, the storm, the darkness, and the thunder, and the rain. End of To Germany by Charles Hamilton Sawley. This recording is in the public domain.
Range Finding by Robert Frost. Read for LibriVox.org by Winston Tharp. The battle rent a cobweb diamond-strung, and cut a flower beside a ground-bird's nest before it stained a single human breast. The stricken flower bent double and so hung, and still the bird revisited her young. A butterfly its fall had dispossessed, a moment sought in air his flower of rest, then lightly stooped to it, and fluttering clung. On the bare upland pasture there had spread o'ernight, twixt mullein stalks, a wheel of thread, and straining cables wet with silver dew. A sudden passing bullet shook it dry. The indwelling spider ran to greet the fly, but finding nothing, sullenly withdrew. End of Range Finding by Robert Frost. This recording is in the public domain.
The Red Flower by Henry Van Dyke. Read for LibriVox.org by Lucy Perry. June 1914. In the pleasant time of Pentecost, by the little river Kill, I followed the angler's winding path, or waded the stream at will, and the friendly fertile German land lay round me, green and still. But all day long on the eastern bank of the river cool and clear, where the curving track of the double rails was hardly seen though near, the endless trains of German troops went rolling down to Trier. They packed the windows with bullet heads and caps of hodden grey. They laughed and sang and shouted loud when the trains were brought to a stay. They waved their hands and sang again as they went on their iron way. No shadow fell on the smiling land, no cloud arose in the sky. I could hear the river's quiet tune when the trains had rattled by. But my heart sank low with a heavy sense of trouble, I knew not why. Then came I into a certain field, where the devil's paintbrush spread mid the grey and green of the rolling hills, a flaring splotch of red, an evil omen, a bloody sign, and a token of many dead. I saw in a vision the field grey horde break forth at the devil's hour, and trample the earth into crimson mud, in the rage of the will to power. All this I dreamed in the valley of Kill, at the sign of the blood-red flower. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Wildgänse rauschen durch die Nacht bei Walter Flex. Recorded for LibriVox.org bei Julia Niedermeyer. Wildgänse rauschen durch die Nacht mit schrillem Schrei nach Norden. Unstete Fahrt, habt Acht, habt Acht, die Welt ist voller Morden. Fahrt durch die nachtdurchwogte Welt, graureisige Geschwader. Pfahlhelle zuckt und Schlachtruf gellt, weit Wald und wogt der Hader. Rauscht zu, fahr zu, du graues Heer, rauscht zu, fahr zu nach Norden. Fahrt ihr nach Süden übers Meer? Was ist aus uns geworden? Wir sind wie ihr ein graues Heer und fahren in Kaisers Namen, und fahren wir ohne Wiederkehr, rauscht uns im Herbst ein Amen. End of Wildgänse rauschen durch die Nacht by Walter Flex. This recording is in the public domain.
Dulce et Decorum Est by Wilfred Owen. Read for LibriVox.org by Kara Schallenberg. Bent double, like old beggars under sacks, knock-kneed, coughing like hags, we cursed through sludge, till on the haunting flares we turned our backs, and towards our distant rest began to trudge. Men marched asleep. Many had lost their boots, but limped on, bloodshod. All went lame, all blind, drunk with fatigue, deaf even to the hoots of gas shells dropping softly behind. Gas! Gas! Quick, boys! An ecstasy of fumbling, fitting the clumsy helmets just in time. But someone still was yelling out and stumbling and floundering like a man in fire or lime. Dim through the misty panes and thick green light, as under a green sea, I saw him drowning. In all my dreams, before my helpless sight, he plunges at me, guttering, choking, drowning. If in some smothering dreams you too could pace behind the wagon that we flung him in, and watch the white eyes writhing in his face, his hanging face, like a devil's, sick of sin, if you could hear, at every jolt, the blood come gargling from the froth-corrupted lungs, bitter as the cud of vile, incurable sores on innocent tongues, my friend, you would not tell with such high zest, to children ardent for some desperate glory, the old lie, dulce et decorum est, pro patria mori. End of Dulce et Decorum Est by Wilfred Owen. This recording is in the public domain.
Glory of Women by Siegfried Sassoon. Read for LibriVox.org by Ernst Patinama. You love us when we're heroes, home on leave, or wounded in a mentionable place. You worship decorations. You believe that chivalry redeems the war's disgrace. You make us shells. You listen with delight, by tales of dirt and danger fondly thrilled. You crown our distant ardors while we fight, and mourn our laureled memories when we're killed. You can't believe that British troops retire when hell's last horror breaks them, and they run, trampling the terrible corpses, blind with blood. O German mother, dreaming by the fire, while you are knitting socks to send your son, his face is trodden deeper in the mud. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
There Will Come Soft Rains by Sarah Teasdale. Read for LibriVox.org by Winston Tharp. There will come soft rains, and the smell of the ground, and swallows circling with their shimmering sound, and frogs in the pools singing at night, and wild plum trees in tremulous white. Robins will wear their feathery fire, whistling their whims on a low fence wire, and not one will know of the war. Not one will care at last when it is done. Not one would mind, neither bird nor tree, if mankind perished utterly. And spring herself, when she woke at dawn, would scarcely know that we were gone. End of There Will Come Soft Rains by Sarah Teasdale. This recording is in the public domain.
Lament in 1915, B.H.W. by Harold Munro. Read for LibriVox.org by Martin Geeson. I call you and I call you. Oh, come home, you lonely creature. Curse the foreign clown who plugged you with that lead and knocked you down. Stand up again and laugh, you wandering friend. Say as you would, it's just a little hole, it will soon mend. Walk now into the room. Come, 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 come. Come, we will laugh together all the night. We shall have poured ourselves a glass or two. Sit down. Our mutual mirth will reach its height when we remember how they called you dead. And I shall ask you how it felt, and you, oh, nothing, just a tumble, rather hot, the feeling in my side, and then my head, a trifle dizzy, but I'm back again. I lay out there too long, and I've still got, when I think of it, just a little pain. I know the way you tumbled. Once you slid and landed on your side. I noticed then a trick of falling, some peculiar glide, a curious movement, not like other men. But did your mouth drop open? Did your breath hurt you? What sort of feeling quickly came when you discovered that it might be death? And what will happen if I shout your name? Perhaps you may be there behind the door, and if I raise my voice a little more, you'll swing it open. I don't know how thick the black partition is between us two. Answer if you can hear me. Friend, be quick. Listen, the doorbell rang. Perhaps it's you. You're in the room. You're sitting in that chair. You are. I will go down. It was the bell. You may be waiting at the door as well. Am I not certain I shall find you there? You're rigged in your best uniform to-day. You take a momentary martial stand, then step inside and hold me out your hand, and laugh in that old solitary way. You don't know why you did it. All this while you've slaved and sweated. Now you're very strong, and so you tell me with a knowing smile, we're going out to Flanders before long. I thought you'd come back with an ugly hole below your thigh, and ask for sympathy and wander lame. I thought you'd be that same grumbling companion without self-control. I never thought you'd die. Now let us both forget this brief affair. Let us begin our friendship all again. I'm going down to meet you on the stair. Walk to me, come, for I can see you plain. How strange! A moment I did think you dead. How foolish of me! Friend, friend, are you dumb? Why are you pale? Why do you hang your head? You see me. Here's my hand. Why don't you come? Don't make me angry. You are there, I know. It's not my house, your house. There is a bed upstairs. You're tired. Lie down. You must come home. Some men are killed. Not you. Be as you were. And yet, somehow it's dark down all the stair. I'm standing at the door. You are not there. End of Lament in 1915. B.H.W. by Harold Munro. This recording is in the public domain.
Not to Keep by Robert Frost. Read for LibriVox by Marianne. They sent him back to her. The letter came saying, and she could have him. And before she could be sure there was no hidden ill under the formal writing, he was in her sight, living. They gave him back to her alive. How else? They are not known to send the dead. And not disfigured visibly. His face, his hands. She had to look, to ask, what was it, dear? And she had given all, and still she had all. They had, they the lucky. Wasn't she glad now? Everything seemed won, and all the rest for them permissible ease. She had to ask, what was it, dear? Enough, yet not enough. A bullet through and through, high in the breast, and nothing but what good care and medicine and rest, and you a week, can cure me of to go again. The same grim giving to do over for them both. She dared no more than ask him with her eyes how it was with him for a second trial. And with his eyes he asked her not to ask. They had given him back to her, but not to keep. End of Not to Keep by Robert Frost. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain.
In Flanders Fields by John McCrae, read for LibriVox by David Wales. In Flanders fields the poppies grow between the crosses, row on row, that mark our place. And in the sky the larks, still bravely singing, fly scarce heard amid the guns below. We are the dead. Short days ago we lived, felt dawn, saw sunset glow, loved and were loved, and now we lie in Flanders fields. Take up our quarrel with the foe. To you from failing hands we throw the torch. Be yours to hold it high. If ye break faith with us who die, we shall not sleep, though poppies grow in Flanders fields. End of In Flanders Fields by John McCrae. This recording is in the public domain.
Vernichtung by August Stramm. Read for LibriVox.org by Hokus Pokus. Vernichtung. Die Himmel wehen, Blut marschiert, marschiert auf 1000 Füßen. Die Himmel wehen, Blut zerstürmt, zerstürmt auf 1000 Schneiden. Die Himmel wehen, Blut zerrinnt, zerrinnt in 1000 Fäden. Die Himmel wehen, Blut zersiegt, zersiegt in 1000 Scharten. Die Himmel wehen, Blut zerschläft, zerschläft zu 1000 Toden. Die Himmel wehen, Tod zerwebt, zerwebt zu 1000 Füßen. End of Vernichtung by August Stramm. This recording is in the public domain.
I Have a Rendezvous with Death by Alan Seeger, 1888 to 1916. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Read for LibriVox.org by Phil Schempf. I have a rendezvous with death at some disputed barricade, when spring comes back with rustling shade and apple blossoms fill the air. I have a rendezvous with death, when spring brings back blue days and fair. It may be he shall take my hand and lead me into his dark land, and close my eyes and quench my breath. It may be I shall pass him still. I have a rendezvous with death on some scarred slope of battered hill, when spring comes round again this year and the first meadow flowers appear. God knows, 'twere better to be deep pillowed in silk and scented down, where love throbs out in blissful sleep, pulse nigh to pulse and breath to breath, where hushed awakenings are dear. But I have a rendezvous with death at midnight in some flaming town, when spring trips north again this year, and I to my pledged word am true. I shall not fail that rendezvous. End of I Have a Rendezvous with Death by Alan Seeger, 1888 to 1916.
Alan Seeger by Grantland Rice. Read for LibriVox.org by Ruth Golding. Alan Seeger, American member of the Foreign Legion, killed in action, July 4th, 1916. Somewhere in France, where crosses lean above so many graves today, where faded lilies place their screen and summer winds kneel down to pray, you who first ventured overseas to watch at last the light grow dim, God must have sent his gentlest breeze to bring your spirit back to him. Somewhere in France, dust unto dust, you wait beyond the inn of life, where through lone nights the guarding crust shuts out the clamour of the strife. But far above the crimson sod no barrier your soul might stop, when from the great white throne of God you see the Legion cross the top. A year ago today you knew the endless melody of song. You saw that summer skies were blue, that drifting summer days were long. You waited while the twilight's breath came crooning some old serenade, to hold your rendezvous with death at some disputed barricade. Today the Legion holds the line, unbroken by the driving mass, where you have helped to write the sign in dripping blood, "They shall not pass." And now, beyond the far divide, You see the starry flag advance among the millions who have died for love of liberty and France. The eagle's wings at last are spread above a never beaten shield, where still among the deathless dead your spectre haunts the clotted field. And borne afar on summer's breath you send this message hurtling through: I had a rendezvous with death. I did not fail that rendezvous. End of Alan Seeger by Grantland Rice. This recording is in the public domain.
Espasmo, by Mário de Andrade. Read for LibriVox.org, by Leni. Ele morre. E tão só. Move e se chama. Quer chamar. Sai-lhe a voz quase sumida. E pelo esforço, sobre o chão de grama, jorra mais sangue da ferida. Vai morrer. Angustiado, a noite inteira, noite encantada de um estio morno, viu o tempo seguir entre as horas caladas. Nem percebeu a lua cálida e trigueira, com 1000 clarões afuzilando em torno, e o broche colossal das estrelas douradas. Olha agora, a alvorada começa de brilhar nos longes glabros. Perto, galhos de arbustos sonolentos, onde a luz se dissolve na orvalhada, são como verdes candelabros, confortando-lhe os últimos momentos. Estira os braços. Os odores, em revoada puríssima e louçã, sobem, cantantes, multicores, cheios da força nova da manhã. Ele pudera ouvir, caindo, quando o estilhaço lhe rasgara o abdômen, as joviais ovações dos seus soldados, e na fugida os inimigos dizimados, e os seus, em fúria, os perseguindo. E não restara um homem. Depois reviu os seus a procurá-lo, altos lamentos pela noite clara. Por pouco não pisara a pata de um cavalo. Quis gritar, mas não pôde. E o único gesto que abriu foi um desfiar de lágrimas, silente. E, olhos febris, rosto congesto, viu seus ulanos partirem tristes, tristemente. E os passarinhos riem, desumanos, sobem aos ares os primeiros hinos, num triunfal e transbordante surto, e em cima dele, com seus pios cristalinos, libra uma cotovia o vôo curto. Vai expirar. Já, numa ardência louca, sente a sede da febre que o acabrunha. Vai expirar. Mas só o estio o testemunha, e a abelha matinal que lhe zumbe na boca. E Gretchen, a rosada companheira de 10 meses apenas, e o filhinho que está para nascer por esses dias. Tantas quenturas de lareira, tanto aconchego de seu ninho, tanto amor, tantas alegrias. Principiavam ao longe os roncos e os estouros. Vincou desoladoramente a fronte. Morreu sozinho, mas o sol, lá do horizonte, pôs o espasmo da luz nos seus cabelos louros. End of Espasmo, by Mário de Andrade. This recording is in the public domain.
The Chances, by Wilfred Owen. Read for LibriVox.org, by Kara Schallenberg. I mind as 'ow the night afore that show us 5 got talking. We was in the know. "Over the top to-morrer, boys, we're for it. First wave we are, first ruddy wave, that's torrit." "Ah, well," says Jimmy, and he's seen some scrappin', "there ain't more nor 5 things as can 'appen. You get knocked out, or else wounded, bad or cushy, scuppered, or nowt except you're feelin' mushy. One of us got the knockout, blown to chops. T'other was hurt, like, losin' both his props. And one, to use the word of hypocrites, 'ad the misfortune to be took by Fritz. Now me, I wasn't scratched, praise God Almighty, though next time, please, I'll thank him for a blighty. But poor young Jim, he's livin' and he's not. He reckoned he'd 5 chances, and he's had. He's wounded, killed, and prisoner, all the lot, the ruddy lot, all rolled in one. Jim's mad. End of The Chances by Wilfred Owen. This recording is in the public domain.
Au Reichstag by Emile Verhaeren. Read for LibriVox.org by Patrick Wallace. On m'affirmait, partout où les cités de vapeur s'enveloppent, où l'homme dans l'effort s'exalte et se complaît, bat le cœur fraternel d'une plus haute Europe. De la Sambre à la Ruhr, de la Ruhr à l'Oural, et d'Allemagne en France, et de France en Espagne, l'ample entente disperse un grand souffle auroral, qui va de ville en plaine, et de plaine en montagne. Ici le charbon fume, et là-bas l'acier bout. Le travail est sombre, et la peine y est rude. Mais les tribuns sont là, dont le torse est debout, et dont le verbe éclaire au front les multitudes. Au soir d'émeutes brusques et de battants tocsins, quand se forme et grandit la révolte brutale, pour qu'on soit imposés les vœux et les desseins, leurs gestes fulguraux domptent les capitales. Ils maîtrisent les parlements astucieux grâce à leur force franche, ardente et réfractaire. Ils ont le peuple immense et rouge derrière eux, et leur grondant pouvoir est fait de son tonnerre. Leurs noms sont lumineux de pays en pays, dans les foyers où l'homme et la femme travaillent, où la fille est la servante des plus petits, leur image à-dessous s'épingle à la muraille. On les aime. Ne sont-ils point simples et droits, avec la pitié grande en leur âme profonde? Et quand s'étend en sa totale ampleur leur voix, ne couvre-t-elle point de sa force le monde? Et l'on disait encore, eux seuls tissent les raies où sera pris le sort, qu'un roi hérisse un jour de ses armes la terre, leur ligue contre lui arrêtera la guerre. Ainsi, s'abolissaient l'effroi, le trouble et le souci, ils exaltaient la foi dans la concorde ardente. La paix régnait déjà, normale et évidente, comme un déroulement de jours, de mois et d'ans. On se sentait heureux de vivre en un tel temps, où tout semblait meilleur au monde, où les génies juraient de le doter d'une neuve harmonie, où l'homme allait vers l'homme et cherchait dans ses yeux on ne sait quoi de grand qui l'égalait aux dieux. Quand se fendit soudain, en quelle heure angoissée, cette tour où le rêve étageait la pensée. Ce fut en août, là-bas, au Reichstag, à Berlin, que ceux en qui le monde avait mis sa foi folle se turent, quand sonna la mauvaise parole. Un nuage passa sur le front du destin. Eux qui l'avaient proscrite accueillirent la guerre. La vieille mort casquée, atroce, autoritaire, sortit de sa caserne avec son linceul blanc pour entraîner l'horreur sur les pays sanglants. Son ombre s'allongea sur les villes en flammes. Le monde se fit honte et tua la grande âme qui se faisait avec ferveur, quoiqu'elle soit un jour l'âme du droit, devant l'audace inique et la force funeste. Aux ennemis dont tue et ravage le geste, il fallut apposer un cœur qui les déteste. On s'acharna ensemble à se haïr soudain. Le clair passé glissa au ténébreux demain. Tout se troublait, et ne fut plus en somme que fureur répandue et que rage dardée. Au fond des bourgs et des campagnes, on prenait peur d'être un vivant, car c'est là ton crime immense, Allemagne, d'avoir tué atrocement l'idée que se faisait pendant la paix, en notre temps, l'homme de l'homme. End of O Reichstag. This recording is in the public domain.
Scots of the Riverina by Henry Lawson. Written in 1917. Read for LibriVox.org by Son of the Exiles. Scots of the Riverina. The boy cleared out to the city from his home at harvest time. They were Scots of the Riverina, and to run from home was a crime. The old man burned his letters, the first and last he burned, and he scratched his name from the Bible when the old wife's back was turned. A year went past and another. There were calls from the firing line. They heard the boy had enlisted, but the old man made no sign. His name must never be mentioned on the farm by Gundagai. They were Scots of the Riverina, with ever the kirk hard by. The boy came home on his final, and the township's bonfire burned. His mother's arms were about him, but the old man's back was turned. The daughters begged for pardon till the old man raised his hand, a Scot of the Riverina who was hard to understand. The boy was killed in Flanders, where the best and bravest die. There were tears at the Graham homestead and grief in Gundagai. But the old man ploughed at daybreak, and the old man ploughed till the murk. There were furrows of pain in the orchard, while his housefolk went to the kirk. The hurricane lamp in the rafters dimly and dimly burned, and the old man died at the table when the old wife's back was turned. Face down on his bare arms folded, he sank with his wild grey hair, outspread o'er the open Bible, and a name rewritten there. End of Scots of the Riverina by Henry Lawson. This recording is in the public domain. The Star of Australasia by Henry Lawson. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. The Star of Australasia. We boast no more of our bloodless flag that rose from a nation's slime. Better a shred of a deep-dyed rag from the storms of the olden time. From grander clouds in our peaceful skies than ever were there before, I tell you the star of the south shall rise in the lurid clouds of war. It ever must be while blood is warm and the sons of men increase, for ever the nations rose in storm to rot in a deadly peace. There comes a point that we will not yield, no matter if right or wrong, and man will fight on the battlefield while passion and pride are strong, so long as he will not kiss the rod and his stubborn spirit souse, and the scorn of nature and curse of God are heavy on peace like ours. There are boys out there by the western creeks who hurry away from school to climb the sides of the breezy peaks or dive in the shaded pool, who'll stick to their guns when the mountains quake to the tread of a mighty war, and fight for right or a grand mistake as men never fought before. When the peaks are scarred and the sea walls crack till the furthest hills vibrate, and the world for a while goes rolling back in a storm of love and hate. There are boys today in the city slum and the home of wealth and pride, who'll have one home when the storm is come, and fight for it side by side, who'll hold the cliffs 'gainst the armoured hells that batter a coastal town, or grimly die in a hail of shells when the walls come crashing down. And many a pink-white baby girl, the queen of her home today, shall see the wings of the tempest whirl the mist of our dawn away, shall live to shudder and stop her ears to the thud of the distant gun, and know the sorrow that has no tears when a battle is lost and won. As a mother or wife in the years to come will kneel wild-eyed and white, and pray to God in her darkened home for the men in the fort tonight. But oh, if the cavalry charge again as they did when the world was wide, 'twill be grand in the ranks of 1,000 men in that glorious race to ride, and strike for all that is true and strong, for all that is grand and brave, and all that ever shall be so long as man has a soul to save. He must lift the saddle and close his wings and shut his angels out, and steel his heart for the end of things who'd ride with a stockman scout. When the race they ride on the battle track and the waning distance hums, and the shelled sky shrieks or the rifles crack like stockwhip against the gums, and the straight is reached and the field is gapped and the hoof-torn sward grows red with the blood of those who are handicapped with iron and steel and lead, and the gaps are filled, though unseen by eyes, with the spirit and with the shades of the world-wide rebel dead who'll rise and rush with the bush brigades. All creeds and trades will have soldiers there, give every class its due, and there'll be many a clerk to spare for the pride of the jackaroo. They'll fight for honour and fight for love, and a few will fight for gold, for the devil below and for God above, as our fathers fought of old. And some half-blind with exultant tears, and some stiff-lipped, stern-eyed, for the pride of 1,000 after years, and the old, eternal pride. The soul of the world they will feel and see in the chase and the grim retreat. They'll know the glory of victory and the grandeur of defeat. The South will wake to a mighty change ere 100 years are done, with arsenals west of the mountain range, and every spur its gun. And many a rickety son of a gun, on the tides of the future tossed, will tell how battles were really won that history says were lost. Will trace the field with his pipe and shirk the facts that are hard to explain, as grey old mates of the diggings work the old ground over again. How this was our centre and this a redoubt, and that was a scrub in the rear, and this was the point where the guards held out, and the enemy's lines were here. They'll tell the tales of the night before and the tales of the ship and fort, till the sons of Australia take to war as their fathers took to sport. Their breath come deep and their eyes grow bright at the tales of our chivalry, and every boy will want to fight, no matter what cause it be. When the children run to the doors and cry, "Oh, mother, the troops are come," and every heart in the town leaps high at the first loud thud of the drum, they'll know, apart from its mystic charm, what music is at last, when, proud as a boy with a broken arm, the regiment marches past. And the veriest wreck in the drink fiend's clutch, no matter how low or mean, will feel, when he hears the march, a touch of the man that he might have been. And fools, when the fiends of war are out and the city skies aflame, will have something better to talk about than an absent woman's shame. Will have something nobler to do by far than jest at a friend's expense, or blacken a name in a public bar or over a backyard fence. And this you learn from the libelled past, though its methods were somewhat rude. A nation's born where the shells fall fast or its lease of life renewed. We impart a tone for the ghoulish strife and the crimes of the peace we boast, and the better part of a people's life in the storm comes uppermost. The self-same spirit that drives the man to the depths of drink and crime will do the deeds in the hero's van that live till the end of time. The living death in the lonely bush, the greed of the selfish town, and even the creed of the outlawed push is chivalry upside down. 'Twill be while ever our blood is hot, while ever the world goes wrong, the nations rise in a war to rot in a peace that lasts too long. And southern nation and southern state, aroused from their dream of ease, must sign in the book of eternal fate their stormy histories. End of The Star of Australasia by Henry Lawson. Read by Son of the Exiles.
The Hosts by Alan Seeger. Read for LibriVox.org by Raven Notation. Purged, with the life they left, of all that makes life paltry and mean and small, in their new dedication charged with something heightened, enriched, enlarged, that lends a light to their lusty brows, and a song to the rhythm of their trampling feet. These are the men that have taken vows. These are the hardy, the flower, the elite. These are the men that are moved no more by the will to traffic and grasp and store, and ring with pleasure and wealth and love the circles that self is the centre of. But they are moved by the powers that force the sea forever to ebb and rise, that hold Arcturus in his course, and marshal at noon in tropic skies the clouds that tower on some snow-capped chain and drift out over the peopled plain. They are big with the beauty of cosmic things. Mark how their columns surge. They seem to follow the goddess with outspread wings that points towards glory, the soldier's dream. With bayonets bare and flags unfurled, they scale the summits of the world, and fade on the farthest golden height in fair horizons full of light. Comrades in arms there, friend or foe, that trod the perilous toilsome trail, through a world of ruin and blood and woe, in the years of the great decision, hail! Friend or foe, it shall matter naught, this only matters, in fine, we fought. For we were young, and in love or strife sought exaltation and craved excess. To sound the wildest debauch in life, we staked our youth and its loveliness. Let idlers argue the right and wrong, and weigh what merit our causes had, putting our faith in being strong above the level of good and bad. For us we battled and burned and killed, because evolving nature willed, and it was our pride and boast to be the instruments of destiny. There was a stately drama writ by the hand that peopled the earth and air, and set the stars in the infinite, and made night gorgeous and morning fair. And all that had sense to reason knew that bloody drama must be gone through. Some sat and watched how the action veered, waited, profited, trembled, cheered. We saw not clearly, nor understood, but yielding ourselves to the master hand, each in his part, as best he could, we played it through as the author planned. End of The Hosts by Alan Seeger. This recording is in the public domain.
Lines by Captain Alexander Gordon Cowie, Seaforth Highlanders, died of wounds 6th of April 1916. From the Lotus Magazine, Volume 8, November 1st, 1916. Read for LibriVox.org by Ruth Golding. It has been said that poets dwell in the shadow which coming events cast before them. The following curious lines, which might have passed unnoticed in 1910, are significant enough today. Though not a different land, a different age is ours, a different stage. New characters are on the scene. Instead of peace, the bright steel sheen. In lieu of rest, mad rage. The warlike clarions, shrill alarms, the ruthless power of deadly sin. Round humble cots, round verdant farms, the roar of beasts, the clash of arms, and o'er the land the battle's hideous din. Through hill and dale a storm of discord whirls, the rising smoke of ruin curls. Shrieks of the wounded, silence of the dead. A more enlightened age of lead. End of lines by Captain Alexander Gordon Cowie, Seaforth Highlanders.
Wie in de loopgraaf ligt, door Albert Verwij. Gelezen voor LibriVox.org door Anna Simon. Wie in de loopgraaf ligt, wie hoop op leven en liefde en lust voor goed heeft opgegeven, kan zich niet langer troosten met de droom dat door zijn dood hij land en volk zal baten, want alle volken, alle staten zijn één als golven van een stroom. Het leed, de vreugd van de een doorcirkelendandig, bloed hier gestort kleurt ginds de spiegeling rood. De baar rolt voort, schoon gij met zwaard en stander hem aan uw grens stilstand gebood. Waar strijdt gij voor, alleen opdat de volken zich te eerder eenen in hun nieuw verband? Geen haat duurt voort. Een God maakt in de kolken van zijn bedoeling al uw doen te schand, omdat de machtigen die u leiden menen dat zij het volk zijn dat gij zijt, omdat gij dwaas zijt en uw bloed en wenen getroost aan het waanbeeld van hun wijsheid wijdt, omdat de dromen van uw vaderen woelen, in u die eigen wereld niet verstaat, omdat de glimlering rottende op uw poelen uw blind maakt voor de gloor die voor u gaat. Daarom verdwaalt ge en stort in woede en wrijten, volk tegen volk, naar de eindig waar uw schaar, gaande naast andere schaar, de kimmen moest doen splijten, van het gemeenzaam juichen om het vereningsjaar. Nu komt ge in bloed en wonden, tussen graven van vriend en vreemd erheen. Nu komt ge, als vrijen niet, maar als geslagen slaven, naar de eigen eindig heen. Van broedervolken die ge er thans zult vinden, doodet ge de zonen. Rookwolken vlammen op de winden, uit de steden waar zij wonen. Gij hebt de kinderen, de vrouwen van uw nieuwe genoten doen hongeren en rouwen, verkracht en verstoten. Klaag het nu voor elkaar, nu uw nieuwe jaar, het jaar van de mensheid zich heeft ontsloten, en vraag, welk een dwaasheid heeft ons bevangen? Een eeuw en langer ging ons verlangen naar een droom van gemeenschap. Nu werd hij waar, en nu zijn we onwaardig hem te ontvangen. Wie in de loopgraaf ligt, wie hoop op leven en liefde en lust verloor, hij wete dat zijn dood geen baat zal geven aan het volk dat zich hem uitverkoor als strijder tegen zijn naasten. Hopen kan hij alleen de komst te verhaasten van het rijk dat ons allen vereen. Einde van Wie in de loopgraaf ligt door Albert Verwij. Deze opname is vrij van auteursrechten.
Suicide in Trenches by Siegfried Sassoon. Read for LibriVox.org by Lynn Thompson. I knew a simple soldier boy who grinned at life in empty joy, slept soundly through the lonesome dark, and whistled early with the lark. In winter trenches, cowed and glum, with crumps and lice and lack of rum, he put a bullet through his brain. No one spoke of him again. You smug-faced crowds with kindling eye, who cheer when soldier lads march by, sneak home and pray you'll never know the hell where youth and laughter go. End of Suicide in Trenches by Siegfried Sassoon. This recording is in the public domain.
Conscious by Wilfred Owen. Read for LibriVox.org by Filespinner. His fingers wake and flutter up the bed. His eyes come open with a pull of will. Helped by the yellow mayflowers by his head, a blind cord draws across the window-sill. How smooth the floor of the ward is, what a rug! And who's that talking, somewhere out of sight? Why are they laughing? What's inside that jug? Nurse? Doctor? Yes, all right, all right. But sudden dusk bewilders the air. There seems no time to want a drink of water. Nurse looks so far away, and everywhere music and roses burnt through crimson slaughter. Cold, cold, he's cold, and yet so hot. And there's no light to see the voices by. No time to dream and ask, he knows not what. End of Conscious by Wilfred Owen. This recording is in the public domain.
An Irish Airman Foresees His Death by William Butler Yeats. Read for LibriVox.org by Siska. I know that I shall meet my fate somewhere among the clouds above. Those that I fight I do not hate. Those that I guard I do not love. My country is Kiltartan Cross. My countrymen Kiltartan's poor. No likely end could bring them loss, or leave them happier than before. Nor law nor duty bade me fight, nor public man, nor angry crowds. A lonely impulse of delight drove to this tumult in the clouds. I balanced all, brought all to mind. The years to come seemed waste of breath. A waste of breath the years behind, in balance with this life, this death. End of An Irish Airman Foresees His Death by William Butler Yeats. This recording is in the public domain.
The Road Not Taken by Robert Frost. Read for LibriVox.org by Caspar Nijssen. Two roads diverged in a yellow wood, and sorry I could not travel both and be one traveller. Long I stood, and looked down one as far as I could, to where it bent in the undergrowth. And then took the other, as just as fair, and having perhaps the better claim, because it was grassy and wanted wear, though as for that, the passing there had warned them really about the same. And both that morning equally lay in leaves no step had trodden black. Oh, I kept the first for another day. Yet, knowing how way leads on to way, I doubted if I should ever come back. I shall be telling this with a sigh, somewhere ages and ages hence. Two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less travelled by, and that has made all the difference. End of The Road Not Taken by Robert Frost. This recording is in the public domain.
As the Team's Head Brass by Edward Thomas. Read for LibriVox.org by Patrick Wallace. As the team's head brass flashed out on the turn, the lovers disappeared into the wood. I sat among the boughs of the fallen elm that strewed the angle of the fallow, and watched the plough narrowing a yellow square of charlock. Every time the horses turned, instead of treading me down, the ploughman leaned upon the handles to say or ask a word about the weather, next about the war. Scraping the share, he faced towards the wood, and screwed along the furrow till the brass flashed once more. The blizzard felled the elm, whose crest I sat in, by a woodpecker's round hole, the ploughman said. When will they take it away? When the war's over. So the talk began, 1 minute and an interval of 10, a minute more, and the same interval. Have you been out? No. And don't want to, perhaps? If I could only come back again, I should. I could spare an arm. I shouldn't want to lose a leg. If I should lose my head, why, so I should want nothing more. Have many gone from here? Yes. Many lost? Yes, a good few. Only 2 teams work on the farm this year. One of my mates is dead. The 2nd day in France they killed him. It was back in March, the very night of the blizzard too. Now, if he'd stayed here, we should have moved the tree. And I should not have sat here. Everything would have been different. For it would have been another world. Aye, and a better. Though if we could see all might seem good. Then the lovers came out of the wood again. The horses started, and for the last time I watched the clods crumble and topple over after the ploughshare and the stumbling team. End of As the Team's Head Brass by Edward Thomas. This recording is in the public domain.
Slachtveld van A. van Collum. Gelezen voor LibriVox.org door Anna Simon. De heengelegde lijken der soldaten zijn aangeraakt door de goudpaarse nacht. Er kruipen lijnen over de gelaten waarop de dood zijn teken heeft gebracht. Sommige hunner liggen als bedronken. Het was ruim veel, de wijn uit deze kan. Hun arme lijven werden volgeschonken. Zij dronken zich de eeuwigheid daaraan. Eén hunner ligt verdwaasd omhoog te turen. Een ster staat op zijn blauw glazuren oog. Het zou wel eeuwigheden kunnen duren voordat dit open turend oog bewoog. Zijn makker is gevallen fel voorover. Hij schijnt te slapen en zijn bloed loopt uit. Zijn linkeroog bleef half geopend over. Daar kijkt hij nu stil uit, die loze guit. In zoete vreugde liggen jonge doden. Zij toeven in een ongestoord geluk. Mocht uit de gele hel losbarsten lode kogelregen, hun deert scherf nog stuk. Zij zijn als zelfbeheersten dichtgesloten. Ze zijn tevreden met wat hun gewerd. Eén hunner zijn de ogen uitgeschoten. Daarom heeft hij zijn mond opengesperd. Een ander lacht. Hij had zich vastgegrepen bij het voorovervallen aan wat gras. Hij werd een kind, hij hield het dichtgenepen. Hij dacht dat het de hand van moeder was. Bij bundels liggen doden uitgegleden. De ransels om, de stormhoed op het hoofd. Zij worden door mortieren overreden. Dat was toch niet wat hun werd toebeloofd. Zij trokken uit, ik zag ze door de straten. Het was bij avond in de Seine-stad. Of was het in Berlijn? Of hoorde ik praten Londens in de straat die ik vergat? Ik weet het niet. Ik weet niet de kledijen die ze zich kleurig hadden omgedaan. Ik weet het ritme niet meer hunner rijen, noch de muziek die klinkend ging vooraan. Ik weet alleen maar jongens, de gelaten van prachtige menswezens, schrijdend voort, vermomd in apenpakjes van soldaten, niet wetende het land waarheen of oord. Ze droegen aan de schouders de geweren en in de loop een kleine veldboeket. Voordat zij traden aan te gaan marcheren, hadden de bruiden die daarin gezet. Het zou de liefste groet zijn van het leven, het laatste afscheid en het welkom. O, hand van mij, waarom gaat gij nu beven? o mond van mij, waarom wordt gij nu stom? De heengelegde lijken der soldaten zijn aangeraakt door de goudpaarse nacht. Er kruipen lijnen over de gelaten waarop de dood zijn teken heeft gebracht. Sommige hunner liggen als bedronken. Het was ruim veel, de wijn uit deze kan. Hun arme lijven werden volgeschonken. Zij dronken zich de eeuwigheid daaraan. Staat alle op, mijn vroege doden. Herleeft, gekruisigden langs weg en veld. Doorschotenen, voorover in de zoden. Herkrijg uw stem, haar vroegere geweld. Rijst langzaam uit, vloeien over uw trekken, het beven van een nieuwe dageraad. Moge mijn roep u tot nieuw leven wekken. Herleeft, herleeft, gesneuvelde soldaat. Grijpt uw geweren in de dode handen. Werpt uit de zadel hem die u beval dat uwe makkers waren uw vijanden. Verbroedert u, soldaten, overal. Blaast een signaal, gestorven mensenmonden, dat aarde beve en doodsvreze kom over de heersers die u hadden uitgezonden voor vaderland, bezit en christendom. Dood aan dit drietal en de mensheid leven en alle heerschappijen gaat er niet. Vertelt wie u de dood heeft ingedreven. Rijst op, soldaten, zingt uw dodenlied. Einde van Slachtveld door A. van Collum. Deze opname is vrij van auteursrechten.
The Next War by Wilfred Owen. Read for LibriVox.org by Winston Tharp. War's a joke for me and you, while we know such dreams are true. Siegfried Sassoon. Out there we've walked quite friendly up to death, sat down and eaten with him cool and bland, pardoned his spilling mess tins in our hand. We've sniffed the green, thick odor of his breath. Our eyes wept, but our courage didn't writhe. He spat at us with bullets, and he's coughed shrapnel. We chorused when he sang aloft. We whistled while he shaved us with his scythe. Oh, death was never enemy of ours. We laughed at him. We leagued with him, old chum. No soldiers paid to kick against his powers. We laughed, knowing that better men would come, and greater wars. When each proud fighter brags, he wars on death for life, not men for flags. End of The Next War by Wilfred Owen. This recording is in the public domain.
Exaltação da Paz, by Mário de Andrade. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Ó Paz, divina geratriz do riso, chegai. Ó doce paz, ó meiga paz, sócia eterna de todos os progressos, estendei vosso manto puro e liso por sobre a terra que se esfaz. Ó suave paz, grandiosa e linda, chegai, ponde por sobre os trágicos sucessos dos infelizes que se degladiam vossa varinha de condão. Tudo se apague, este ódio, esta cólera infinda, fujam os ventos maus que ora esfuziam, que se vos ouça a voz, não o canhão. Ó suave paz, ó meiga paz. O sol, nas arraiadas calmas, brilhara sobre montes, sobre vales, sobre inconsciências de campônios, sobre paisagens de corô. Havia beijos mornos de favônios, e aos altos montes e nos fundos vales, os galhos eram compassivas almas, dando sombras no prado e frescura nas fontes. Hoje, por vales e por montes, tudo mudou. Tudo mudou. Atra estralada de bombardas insânia, um clangorar de márcios trons reboando, tempestades terrestres estrondeando, tiritir sibilar zinir miúdo de balas, caindo sobre absconsas valas, coriscos, raios levantando-se de covas, batalhões infernais em soturnas atuardas, clarins gritando, baionetas cintilando, bramidos, golpes, ais, suspiros, estertores? Que é dos outonos de úmidos calores? Que é das colheitas novas? Onde as foices brilhando ao sol? Onde as tardes de rouxinol? Onde as cantigas? Onde as camponesas? Onde os bois nas charruas? Onde as aldeias de sonoras ruas? Onde os caminhos com arvoredos e framboesas? Tudo mudou. Gira na terra o tripúdio satânico da guerra. Por quê? Se o mundo é bom, a vida boa, se a luz é para todos, se as campinas dão para todos, por que viver lutando à toa? Insultos, cóleras, apodos, a carniçal volúpia das chacinas, os ódios que se batem, as mil raivas que se combatem, alsácias vergastadas, heróicas bélgicas dilaceradas, lieges desfiguradas, sane, ruína, infinitas sepulturas, desvairado matar, hecatombes monstruosas. E de nenhuma parte um beijo de perdão. Vão para a guerra, desdenhando-lhe as agruras, todos vestidos de coragens ambiciosas. E acaso alguém terá razão? Muito mais ter razão é conduzir as gentes pelo caminho bom das alegrias, sem, com os exércitos ingentes, acordar os convales e as vertentes e os ecos virginais das serranias. Provocar nas cidades, nas aldeias, as guerras sacrossantas dos trabalhos, distribuir pelos povos trigos e livros a mancheias, honrar com outros novos os monumentos velhos e grisalhos, derramar a verdade em cada casa, dar-lhe um livro que é força, educação que é uma asa, pôr-lhe à janela as flores caprichosas, pôr-lhe a fartura no limiar e sobre ela fazer desabrochar o riso como desabrocham rosas. Ter razão é levar pelo atalho da fé, é as greis humanas pela primavera, quando a terra toda é florida como uma quimera, conduzir para a luz, para a alegria, para tudo que é róseo e que é risonho, para tudo que é poema ou sinfonia, para o arrebol, para a esperança, para o sonho. Ó doce paz, ó meiga paz, vinde, divina geratriz do riso, estendei vosso manto, puro e liso, por sobre a terra que se esfaz. E novamente os povos sossegados, mais felizes ao fim, menos incréus, envolvereis, ó paz imensa. De novo os cantos rolarão nos prados, e os homens todos rezarão aos céus, numa ressurreição da esperança e da crença. End of Exaltação da Paz, by Mário de Andrade.
The Messages, by Wilfred Wilson Gibson. Read for LibriVox by Marianne Spiegel. I cannot quite remember. There were 5 dropped dead beside me in the trench, and 3 whispered their dying messages to me. Back from the trenches, more dead than alive, stone deaf and dazed, and with a broken knee, he hobbled slowly, muttering vacantly. I cannot quite remember. There were 5 dropped dead beside me in the trench, and 3 whispered their dying messages to me. Their friends are waiting, wondering how they thrive, waiting a word in silence, patiently. But what they said, or who their friends may be, I cannot quite remember. There were 5 dropped dead beside me in the trench, and 3 whispered their dying messages to me. End of The Messages by Wilfred Wilson Gibson. This recording is in the public domain.
A New John Bull by Henry Lawson. Read for LibriVox.org by Son of the Exiles. A New John Bull. A tall, slight English gentleman with an eyeglass to his eye. He mostly says "Good-bye" to you when he means to say "Good-bye." He shakes hands like a ladies' man for all the world to see, but they know in corners of the world no ladies' man is he. A tall, slight English gentleman who hates to soil his hands. He takes his mother's drawing-room to the most outlandish lands. And when through hells we dream not of his battery prevails, he cleans the grime of gunpowder and blue blood from his nails. He's what our blokes in Egypt call a decent kind of cove, and if the pyramids should fall he'd merely say "By Jove!" And if the stones should block his path for a 12-month or a day, he'd call on Sergeant What's-his-name to clear those things away. A quiet English gentleman who dots the Empire's rim, where sweating sons of ebony would go to hell for him. And if he chances to get winged or smashed up rather worse, he's quite apologetic to the doctor and the nurse. A silent English gentleman, though sometimes he says "Haw!" But if a baboon in its cage appealed to British law and justice to be understood, he'd listen all polite and do his very best to set the monkey grievance right. A thoroughbred whose ancestry goes back to ages dim, yet no one on his wide estates need fear to speak to him. Although he never showed a sign of aught save sympathy, he was the only gentleman that shamed the cad in me. End of A New John Bull by Henry Lawson. This recording is in the public domain.
Champagne, 1914-15, by Alan Seeger. Read for LibriVox.org by Raven Notation. In the glad revels, in the happy fates, when cheeks are flushed, and glasses gilt and pearled with the sweet wine of France that concentrates the sunshine and the beauty of the world, drink sometimes, you whose footsteps yet may tread the undisturbed, delightful paths of earth, to those whose blood, in pious duty shed, hallows the soil where that same wine had birth. Here, by devoted comrades laid away, along our lines they slumber where they fell, beside the crater at the Fermal d'Alguer, and up the bloody slopes of La Pompelle, and round the city whose cathedral towers the enemies of beauty dared profane, and in the mat of multicolored flowers that clothe the sunny chalk fields of Champagne. Under the little crosses where they rise the soldier rests. Now round him undismayed the cannon thunders, and at night he lies at peace beneath the eternal fusillade, that other generations might possess, from shame and menace free in years to come, a richer heritage of happiness. He marched to that heroic martyrdom, esteeming less the forfeit that he paid than undishonored that his flag might float over the towers of liberty. He made his breast the bulwark and his blood the moat, obscurely sacrificed his nameless tomb, bare of the sculptor's art, the poet's lines. Summer shall flush with poppy fields in bloom, and autumn yellow with maturing vines. There the grape-pickers at their harvesting shall lightly tread and load their wicker trays, blessing his memory as they toil and sing in the slant sunshine of October days. I love to think that if my blood should be so privileged to sink where his has sunk, I shall not pass from earth entirely, but when the banquet rings, when healths are drunk, and faces that the joys of living fill glow radiant with laughter and good cheer, in beaming cups some spark of me shall still brim towards the lips that once I held so dear. So shall one coveting no higher plane than nature clothes in colour and flesh and tone, even from the grave put upward to attain the dreams youth cherished and missed and might have known. And that strong need that strove unsatisfied toward earthly beauty in all forms it wore, not death itself shall utterly divide from the beloved shapes it thirsted for. Alas, how many an adept for whose arms life held delicious offerings perished here! How many in the prime of all that charms, crowned with all gifts that conquer and endear! Honour them not so much with tears and flowers, but you with whom the sweet fulfilment lies, where in the anguish of atrocious hours turned their last thoughts and closed their dying eyes. Rather when music on bright gatherings lays its tender spell, and joy is uppermost, be mindful of the men they were, and raise your glasses to them in one silent toast. Drink to them, amorous of dear earth as well, they asked no tribute lovelier than this, and in the wine that ripened where they fell, oh, frame your lips as though it were a kiss. Champagne, France, July, 1915. End of Champagne, 1914-15, by Alan Seeger. Read for LibriVox.org by Raven Notation.
Berliner Gerüchte. Read for LibriVox.org by Patrick Wallace. Herr Meier, und hörst du es nicht? Das Wilde, das Grause, das dumpfe Gerücht. Ein Licht in der russischen Botschaft. Und da, wo ein Licht, da ist auch ein Mann, und er sitzt an einem Vertrage dran, beim Licht in der russischen Botschaft. Und das Licht geht manchem Politiker auf, es strömet das Volk, es rennet zuhauf zum Licht in der russischen Botschaft. Und einer zum andern geheimnisvoll spricht, da ist was im Gange, ja, sehen Sie's denn nicht, das Licht in der russischen Botschaft? Es erbrausen die Linden, berennet die Tür, ein Schutzmann hält seinen Bauch dafür vor das Licht in der russischen Botschaft. Sogar ein geheimer Studienrat sagt die Informationen, die er bei sich hat, vom Licht in der russischen Botschaft. Und drin spricht der Klempner im öden Saal. Du hör mal, Maxe, du kannst mir mal die Ölkanne rübergeben. Dann gehen die beiden geruhig nach Haus, nach dem Stralauer Tor, und das Licht löscht aus, das Licht in der russischen Botschaft. End of Berliner Gerüchte by Kurt Tucholsky.
Selections from Severn and Somme by Ivor Gurney. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Severn and Somme by Ivor Gurney. To certain comrades, E.S. and J.H. Living we loved you, yet withheld our praises before your faces. And though we had your spirits high in honour, after the English manner, we said no word, yet, as such comrades would, you understood. Such friendship is not touched by death's disaster, but stands the faster, and all the shocks and trials of time cannot shake it one jot. Beside the fire at night, some far December, we shall remember, and tell men unbegotten as yet, the story of your sad glory, of your plain strength, your truth of heart, your splendid coolness, all ended, yet the aching hearts of lovers joy overcovers, glad in their sorrow, hoping that if they must come to the dust, an ending such as yours may be their portion, and great good fortune. That if we may not live to serve in peace, England, watching increase, then death with you, honoured, and swift, and high, and so not die. In Trenches, July 1916. The fire kindled. God, that I might see Framelode once again, red Marly, all renewed, clear shining after rain, and Cranham trees, and blaze of autumn hues, Portway under the moon, silvered with freezing dews, May Hill that Gloucester dwellers 'gainst every sunset see, and the wide Severn river homing again to the sea. The star of afterglow, Venus on western hills, Dimmock in spring, O spring of home, O daffodils, and Malvern's matchless huge bastions of ancient fires, these will not let me rest, so hot my heart desires. Here we go sore of shoulder, sore of foot by quiet streams, but these are not my rivers, and these are useless dreams. Maysmore. Oh, when we swung through Maysmore, the Maysmore people cheered, and women ran from farmyards, and men from ricks, afeared to lose the sight of soldiers, who would, 'fore Christmas Day, blow Kaiser William's army, like mist of breath, away. The war it was but young then, and we were young, unknowing the path we were to tread, the way the path was going. And not a man of all of us, marching across the bridge, had thought how home would linger in our hearts as Maysmore Ridge. When the darkness downward hovers, making trees like German shadows, how our souls fly homing, homing, times and times to Maysmore meadows. By Ober's Ridge that Maysmore men have died in vain to hold, the burning thought but once desires Maysmore in morning gold. Oh, when we marched through Maysmore, past many a creaking cart, we little thought we had in us love so hot at heart. The Strong Thing. I have seen death, and the faces of men in fear of death, and shattered, terribly ruined flesh appalled. But through the horror, coloured and clear, the love of my county, Gloucester, rises afresh. And on the day of days, the judgment day, the word of doom awaiting breathless and still, I'll marvel how sweet's the air down Framelode way, and take my sentence on sheer down Crickley Hill. The Estaminet. The crowd of us were drinking one night at Res Balul. The glasses were a-clinking, the Estaminet was full, and loud with song and story, and blue with tales and smoke. We spoke no word of glory, nor mentioned foreign yoke, but yarns of girls in Blighty, vain, jolly, ugly, fair, stand-offish, foolish, flighty, and oh, that we were there, where never thuds a Minnie, but Minnie smiles at you, a meeting in the spinney, with kisses not a few. And of an inn that Johnson does keep, the Rising Sun, his friends call him Jack Johnson, he's Gloucester's only one. And talk of poachers' habits, but girls ever and again, of killing weasels, rabbits, stoats, pheasants, never men. Although we knew tomorrow must take us to the line, in beer hid thought and sorrow, in ruddy and white wine. When all had finished drinking, though still was clear each head, we said no word, went slinking, straight homeward into bed. Oh, never lads were merrier, nor straighter, nor more fine, though we were only terrier, and only second line. Oh, may I get to Blighty, or hell, without a sign of all the love that filled me, leave dumb the love that filled me, the flood of love that filled me, for these dear comrades of mine. Requiem. Pour out your lights, O stars, and do not hold your loveliest shining from earth's outworn shell. Pure and cold your radiance, pure and cold my dead friend's face as well. Requiem. Nor grief nor tears should wrong the silent dead, save England's, for her children fallen so far from her eager care, though by God's justice led, and fallen in such a war. Requiem. Pour out your bounty, moon of radiant shining, on all this shattered flesh, these quiet forms, for these were slain, so strangely still reclining, in the noblest cause was ever waged with arms. End of Severn and Somme by Ivor Gurney. Read by Alan Mapstone from Gloucestershire, England.
Langemarck at Ypres by Wilfred Campbell. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. This is the Ballad of Langemarck, a story of glory and might, of the vast Hun horde and Canada's part in the great grim fight. It was April fair on the Flanders fields, but the dreadest April then that ever the years, in their fateful flight, had brought to this world of men. North and east, a monster wall, the mighty Hun ranks lay, with fort on fort and iron-ringed trench, menacing, grim, and grey. And south and west, like a serpent of fire, serried the British lines, and in between, the dying and dead, and the stench of blood, and the trampled mud on the fair, sweet Belgian vines. And far to the eastward, harnessed and taut, like a scimitar, shining and keen, gleaming out of that ominous gloom, old France's hosts were seen. When out of the grim Hun lines one night there rolled a sinister smoke, a strange, weird cloud, like a pale, green shroud, and death lurked in its cloak. On a fiend-like wind it curled along over the brave French ranks. Like a monster tree its vapours spread, in hideous, burning banks of poisonous fumes that scorched the night with their sulphurous demon danks. and men went mad with horror and fled from that terrible, strangling death that seemed to sear both body and soul with its baleful, flaming breath. Till even the little dark men of the South, who feared neither God nor man, those fierce, wild fighters of Afric's steppes, broke their battalions and ran. Ran as they never had run before, gasping and fainting for breath, for they knew 'twas no human foe that slew, and that hideous smoke meant death. Then red in the reek of that evil cloud, the Hun swept over the plain, and the murderer's dirk did its monster work mid the scythe-like shrapnel rain, till it seemed that at last the brute Hun hordes had broken that wall of steel, and that soon, through this breach in the free man's dike, his trampling hosts would wheel and sweep to the south in ravaging might, and Europe's peoples again be trodden under the tyrant's heel, like herds in the Prussian pen. But in that line on the British right there massed a corps amain, of men who hailed from a far west land of mountain and forest and plain. Men new to war and its dreadest deeds, but noble and staunch and true. Men of the open, east and west, brew of old Britain's brew. These were the men out there that night, when hell loomed close ahead, who saw that pitiful, hideous rout, and breathed those gases dread, while some went under and some went mad, but never a man there fled. For the word was Canada, theirs to fight, and keep on fighting still. Britain said, fight, and fight they would, though the devil himself in sulphurous mood came over that hideous hill. Yea, stubborn, they stood, that hero band, where no soul hoped to live, for 5 'gainst 80,000 men were hopeless odds to give. Yea, fought they on. 'Twas Friday eve when that demon gas drove down. 'Twas Saturday eve that saw them still grimly holding their own. Sunday, Monday, saw them yet a steadily lessening band, with no surrender in their hearts, but the dream of a far-off land, where mother and sister and love would weep for the hushed heart lying still, but never a thought but to do their part and work the Empire's will. Ringed round, hemmed in, and back to back, they fought there under the dark, and won for Empire, God, and right, at grim, red Langemarck. Wonderful battles have shaken this world, since the dawn god overthrew Dis. Wonderful struggles of right against wrong, sung in the rhymes of the world's great song, but never a greater than this. Bannockburn, Inkerman, Balaclava, Marathon's godlike stand, but never a more heroic deed, and never a greater warrior breed in any war man's land. This is the ballad of Langemarck, a story of glory and might, of the vast Hun horde, and Canada's part in the great, grim fight. End of Langemarck at Ypres by Wilfred Campbell. Read by Marianne Spiegel.
Malédiction par Henri Guilbeault. Enregistré pour LibriVox.org. Prompt, souple, audacieux, sur la grande cité vogue un aéroplane. par-dessus les rues populeuses, ronronne son moteur téméraire, et curieuse et gouailleuse le contemple et l'interroge la foule. Tout à coup sans qu'on la voie, et telle une pomme d'automne détachée de l'arbre, choite une bombe. Elle s'écrase, éclate et coule son suc destructeur. Bruit sourd, brise sec de vitres, sifflement aigre du bois qui s'arrache. Prends, souple, audacieux et calme, sur la cité vogue un aéroplane. À tous les carrefours se conglomère et gesticule la foule. Comme des épis qu'impérieusement dresse le vent, se haussent les têtes. Tout à coup, exclamations, cris, gémissements, un vieillard, une femme, un enfant chancelle. D'un mur qui se crevasse, s'effrite et s'éparpille des fragments de pierre. La foule murmure et arc-boute de courroucée et menace son bras. Oiseaux guerriers, vous précipitez dans l'air le désastre et la ruine. Les hommes inoffensifs, vous les triturez par la poudre et le feu. Ne soyez pas maudits, mais maudite soit la guerre, maudits ceux qui l'ont propulsée. On y soit tous les vils et sournois préparateurs de la catastrophe. Et les escadrilles d'avions qui là-bas irradient l'incendie et le meurtre. Et la flottille aventureuse de dirigeables coupant les vagues de l'air et versant nuitamment des bombes. Ô science violée abominablement et sans remords par les hommes! Ô science souillée et corrompue par les artisans des atroces massacres! Ô science chassée des laboratoires et menée avec brutalité sur les champs de bataille, comme une vierge douce et tendre, livrée à une section de soldats saouls. Ô science pareille à la femme superbe et irrésistible devenue instrument de crime. Œuvrez avec patience, cherchez, inventez encore, savants, physiciens et chimistes. Votre labeur n'enfante pas le bien de l'humanité, mais sa scientifique et honteuse extermination. À la guerre sont tyranniquement soumis votre jeune et forte science et votre zèle alerte. Aviateurs français, allemands, marins de l'air, ne soyez pas maudits. Mais que soient anathémisés, lâchement abrités, les ordonnateurs du saccage. Et vous, qui avec violence discourez sur la barbarie et la férocité, ô pharisiens, rappelez-vous les crimes de Formy, de Narbonne et de Villeneuve-Saint-Georges. Évoquez à cette heure les exécrables forfaits qu'accomplirent gouvernants et capitalistes. Remémorez-vous les charges et les massacres, la dure et ignominieuse immolation de ceux qui crurent un jour à vos lois. Qu'on relate sans nulle omission les plus récentes expéditions coloniales, et que sur votre vaste écran soient projetées les inouïes atrocités marocaines. Que sans nulle exception ils soient honnis, ils soient maudits. Ils soient maudits tous ceux qui ordonnent tuerie, massacre et destruction, les oppresseurs de l'humanité trop longtemps tolérés. Fin de Malédiction par Henri Guilbeault, enregistré par Ruth Golding.
Ode in Memory of the American Volunteers Fallen for France by Alan Seeger. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. To have been read before the statue of Lafayette and Washington in Paris on Decoration Day, May 30th, 1916. 1. Aye, it is fitting on this holiday, commemorative of our soldier dead, when, with sweet flowers of our New England May, hiding the lichened stones by 50 years made grey, their graves in every town are garlanded, that pious tribute should be given to our intrepid few, obscurely fallen here beyond the seas. Those to preserve their country's greatness died, but by the death of these, something that we can look upon with pride has been achieved, nor wholly unreplied can sneerers triumph in the charge they make, that from a war where freedom was at stake, America withheld, and, daunted, stood aside. 2. Be they remembered here with each reviving spring, not only that in May, when life is loveliest, around Neuville-Saint-Vaast and the disputed crest of Vimy, they, superb, unfaltering, in that fine onslaught that no fire could halt, parted impetuous to their first assault, but that they brought fresh hearts, and spring-like too, to that high mission, and 'tis meet to strew with twigs of lilac and spring's earliest rose the cenotaph of those who in the cause that history most endears fell in the sunny morn and flower of their young years. 3. Yet sought they neither recompense nor praise, nor to be mentioned in another breath than their blue-coated comrades, whose great days it was their pride to share, aye, share even to the death. Nay, rather, France, to you they rendered thanks, seeing they came for honour, not for gain, who, opening to them your glorious ranks, gave them that grand occasion to excel, that chance to live the life most free from stain, and that rare privilege of dying well. 4. O friends, I know not since that war began, from which no people nobly stands aloof, if in all moments we have given proof of virtues that were thought American. I know not if in all things done and said all has been well and good, or if each one of us can hold his head as proudly as he should, or from the pattern of those mighty dead, whose shades our country venerates to-day, if we've not somewhat fallen and somewhat gone astray. But you to whom our land's good name is dear, if there be any here who wonder if her manhood be decreased, relaxed its sinews, and its blood less red than that at Shiloh and Antietam shed, be proud of these, have joy in this at least, and cry, now Heaven be praised, that in that hour that most imperilled her, menaced her liberty, who foremost raised Europe's bright flag of freedom, some there were who, not unmindful of the antique debt, came back from the generous path of Lafayette, and when of a most formidable foe she checked each onset, arduous to stem, foiled and frustrated them. On those red fields where blow with furious blow was countered, whether the gigantic fray rolled by the Meuse or at the Bois Sabot, accents of ours were in the fierce mêlée, and on those furthest rims of hallowed ground where the forlorn, the gallant charge expires, when the slain bugler has long ceased to sound, and on the tangled wires the last wild rally staggers, crumbles, stops, withered beneath the shrapnel's iron showers. Now Heaven be thanked, we gave a few brave drops. Now Heaven be thanked, a few brave drops were ours. 5. There, holding still, in frozen steadfastness, their bayonets toward the beckoning frontiers, they lie, our comrades, lie among their peers, clad in the glory of fallen warriors, grim clusters under thorny trellises, dry, furthest foam upon disastrous shores, leaves that made last year beautiful, still strewn even as they fell, unchanged, beneath the changing moon. And earth in her divine indifference rolls on, and many paltry things and mean prate to be heard and caper to be seen. But they are silent, calm. Their eloquence is that incomparable attitude. No human presences their witnesses are, but summer clouds, and sunsets crimson-hued, and showers, and night winds, and the northern star. Nay, even our salutations seem profane, opposed to their Elysian quietude, our salutations calling from afar, from our ignobler plane, and undistinction of our lesser parts. Hail, brothers, and farewell! You are twice blessed, brave hearts. Double your glory is who perished thus, for you have died for France, and vindicated us. End of Ode in Memory of the American Volunteers Fallen for France, by Alan Seeger. Read for LibriVox.org by Raven Notation.
The Dead, by Rupert Brooke. Read for LibriVox.org by Winston Tharp. Blow out, you bugles, over the rich dead. There's none of these so lonely and poor of old, but dying has made us rarer gifts than gold. These laid the world away, poured out the red sweet wine of youth, gave up the years to be of work and joy, and that unhoped serene that men call age, and those who would have been, their sons they gave, their immortality. Blow, bugles, blow! They brought us for our dearth holiness, lacked so long, and love and pain. Honor has come back as a king to earth, and paid his subjects with a royal wage. And nobleness walks in our ways again, and we have come into our heritage. These hearts were woven of human joys and cares, washed marvelously with sorrow, swift to mirth. The years had given them kindness, dawn was theirs, and sunset, and the colors of the earth. These had seen movement and heard music, known slumber and waking, loved, gone proudly friended, felt the quick stir of wonder, sat alone, touched flowers and furs and cheeks. All this is ended. There are waters blown by changing winds to laughter, and lit by the rich skies all day, and after, frost with a gesture stays the waves that dance and wandering loveliness. He leaves a white, unbroken glory, a gathered radiance, a width, a shining peace under the night. End of The Dead, by Rupert Brooke. This recording is in the public domain.
At the Somme, Under the Tricolor, by Mary Borden Turner, 1886 to 1968. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Read for LibriVox by Phil Schempf. Where is Jehovah? Where is Jehovah, the God of Israel, with his ark and his tabernacle and his pillars of fire? He ought to be here. This place would suit him. Here is a people pouring through a wilderness. Here are armies camping in a desert. Their little tents are like sheep flocking over the prairie. It's all in the style of the God of Israel. Here is a land that was silent and desolate, suddenly covered with noise and confusion. The wide white plains and shallow gray valleys are smeared over with the disorder of armies. Picardy is shaking with a fever. Picardy's hills are wounded and broken. Picardy's fields are scarred as with smallpox. What a chance for his prophets! What a playground for miracles! A host of men at the end of their strength, fighting death, fighting terror, with no one to worship. He need but lift his finger. Here are all his pet properties ready to hand: the thunder, the lightning, the clouds, and the fire. This is his hour, but Jehovah has missed it. This is not his thunder, nor his lightning. These are not his people. These are the armies of France and of England. The thunder is the thunder of their guns, and the lightning that runs along the horizon is the flare and the flash of the battle that's raging. Moses is dead, and Joshua, who led his people into the promised land, is dead. And there are no more prophets to cry through the wilderness to comfort these people. They must look after themselves. All the host of them, each one of them, quite alone, each one of them, every one of the 100,000 of them, alone, must stand up to meet the war. With the sky cracking, with creatures of wide metal wings tearing the sky over his head, with the earth shaking, with the solid earth under his feet giving way, with the hills covered with fire and valleys smoking, and the few bare trees spitting bullets, and the long roads like liquid torrents, rolling up with guns and munitions and men, always men and more men, with these long roads rolling up like a river to drown him, and no way of escape. With the few houses broken, no walls, no enclosure, no protection. With all of the universe crushing upon him, rain, sun, cold, dark, death, coming full on him. With the men near him going mad, gibbering, bleeding, twisting, with his comrade lying dead under his feet. With the enemy beyond there, unseen, curious, with eternity waiting, whispering to him through the noise of the cannon. With the memory of his home haunting him, and the face of a woman who is waiting. With the soft echo of his children's sweet laughter sounding, and shells bursting with roars near him, but not drowning those voices. He stands there, he keeps on standing, he stands solid. He is so small in the landscape as to be almost invisible. We see him as a speck there. He is dirty, he is tired, his stomach is empty. He is stupid, his life has been stupid. He has lived a few years without understanding. He does not understand now. He will never understand. He is bigger than all the world. He is more important than all the army. He is more terrible than all the war. He stands there. But where is Jehovah, the God of the great drama, the God of vengeance, the Lord of hosts? Here the scene is set for his acting, a desert, a promised land, a nation in agony waiting. Jehovah's not here. There's only a man standing, quite still. The Song of the Mud. This is the song of the mud, the pale yellow glistening mud that covers the naked hills like satin, the gray, gleaming, silvery mud that is spread like enamel over the valleys, the frothing, squirting, spurting, liquid mud that gurgles along the road beds, the thick, elastic mud that is kneaded and pounded and squeezed under the hoofs of horses, the invincible, inexhaustible mud of the war zone. This is the song of the mud, the uniform of the poilu. His coat is of mud, his poor, great, flapping coat that is too big for him and too heavy. His coat that once was blue, and now is gray and stiff with the mud that cakes it. This is the mud that clothes him. His trousers and boots are of mud, and his skin is of mud. And there is mud in his beard. His head is crowned with a helmet of mud, and he wears it. Oh, he wears it well. He wears it as a king wears the ermine that bores him. He has set a new style in clothing. He has introduced the chic of the mud. This is the song of the mud that wiggles its way into battle. The impertinent, the intrusive, the ubiquitous, the unwelcome, the slimy, inveterate nuisance that fills the trenches, that mixes in with the food of the soldiers, that spoils the working of motors and crawls into their secret parts, that spreads itself over the guns, that sucks the guns down and holds them fast in its slimy, voluminous lips, that has no respect for destruction and muzzles the bursting of shells, and slowly, softly, easily soaks up the fire, the noise, soaks up the energy and the courage, soaks up the power of armies, soaks up the battle, just soaks it up and thus stops it. This is the song of the mud, the obscene, the filthy, the putrid, the vast liquid grave of our armies. It has drowned our men. Its monstrous, distended belly reeks with the undigested dead. Our men have gone down into it, sinking slowly and struggling and slowly disappearing. Our fine men, our brave, strong, young men, our glowing, red, shouting, brawny men, slowly, inch by inch, they have gone down into its darkness, its thickness, its silence. Relentlessly it drew them down, sucking them down. They have been drowned there in thick, bitter, heaving mud. It hides them, oh, so many of them. Under its smooth, glistening surface it is hiding them blandly. There is not a trace of them. There is no mark where they went down. The mute, enormous mouth of the mud has closed over them. This is the song of the mud, the beautiful, glistening, golden mud that covers the hills like satin, the mysterious, gleaming, silvery mud that is spread like enamel over the valleys. Mud, the fantastic disguise of the war zone. Mud, the extinguishing mantle of battles. Mud, the smooth, fluid grave of our soldiers. This is the song of the mud. The Hill. From the top of the hill I looked down upon the marvelous landscape of the war, the beautiful, the romantic landscape of the superb, exulting war. The crests of the wide, surging hills were golden, and the red tents clustered on their naked sides were like flowers in a shining desert of hills. It was evening. The long, shallow valley was bathed in blue shadow, and through the shadow, as if swimming, I saw the armies moving. The long convoys of their motors passed down the road, an endless line of mysterious energy rolling, and the troops, spreading over the wide basin of the valley, peopled the wilderness with a phantom host. Campfires gleamed down there. The sun was setting, and against the brilliant sky, along the clear crest of the hills to the west, a regiment of cavalry went filing. A flock of aeroplanes was flying home with a great whirring of proud wings. Dizzy with the marvelous spectacle of the war, I looked down across the rough foreground that dropped away in darkness beneath my feet. A path, the deserted way of peaceful cattle, showed below, beyond the gaping caverns of abandoned trenches, and along the path a German prisoner was coming, driven by a black man on a horse. The black man wore a turban, and he drove the prisoner before him as one drives an animal to market. The German stumbled on, heavily beneath the nose of his captor's horse. I could see the pallid disk of his face thrust forward, and the exhausted lurching of his clumsy body. I could feel the heaviness of his despair. Along the path that he traveled were piles of rubbish, old shell cases and boots, and battered helmets. 2 wooden crosses showed, sticking out of the rough ground. As I watched him disappear beneath the hill, it seemed to me that his hate was like a curse crawling through the grave of our nation. But beyond, in the deepening shadow of the valley, the marvelous spectacle of invincible phantom armies moved, as if swimming. And as I watched I heard, through the echoing of the guns, the faint, crying music of bagpipes, the song of an unseen regiment marching. The crests of the surging hills were still golden, and above the slumbering exaltation of the prodigious war, the fragile crescent of the new moon hung serene in the perfect sky. End of At the Somme Under the Tricolor, by Mary Borden Turner, 1886 1968.
Война объявлена. By Vladimir Mayakovsky. Read for LibriVox.org by Anastasia Salocha. Вечернюю, вечернюю, вечернюю! Италия, Германия, Австрия! И на площадь, мрачно очерченную чернью, багровой крови пролилась струя. Морду в кровь разбила кофейня зверьим криком багрима. Отравим кровью игры Рейна, громами ядер на мрамор Рима. С неба, изодранного аж штыков жала, слезы звезд просеивались, как мука в сите, и подошвами сжатая жалость визжала. Ах, пустите, пустите, пустите! бронзовые генералы на граненном цоколе молили: «Раскуйте, и мы пойдем!» Прощающиеся конницы поцелуи цокали, и пехоте хотелось к убийце победе. Громоздящемуся городу уродился во сне хохочущий голос пушечного баса, а с запада падает красный снег с сочными клочьями человечьего мяса. Вздуваются у площади за ротой рота, у злящейся на лбу вздуваются вены. Постойте, шашки о шелк кокоток, вытрем в бульварах Вены. Газетчики надрывались: «Купите вечернюю! Италия, Германия, Австрия!» А из ночи, черно очерченной чернью, багровой крови лилась и лилась струя. End of «Война объявлена» by Владимир Маяковский. This recording is in the public domain.
Louse Hunting by Isaac Rosenberg. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Nudes, stark and glistening, yelling in lurid glee, grinning faces and raging limbs whirl over the floor, one fire. For a shirt verminously busy, yon soldier tore from his throat, with oaths Godhead might shrink at, but not the lice. And soon the shirt was aflare with a candle he'd lit while we lay. Then we all sprang up and stripped to hunt the verminous brood. Soon, like a demon's pantomime, this plunge was raging. See the silhouettes agape, see the gibbering shadows mixed with the baffled arms on the wall. See gargantuan hooked fingers pluck in supreme flesh to smutch supreme littleness. See the merry limbs in that Highland fling, because some wizard vermin willed to charm from the quiet this revel, when our ears were half lulled by the dark music blown from sleep's trumpet. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Maktub by Alan Seeger. Read for LibriVox.org by Raven Notation. A shell surprised our post one day, and killed a comrade at my side. My heart was sick to see the way he suffered as he died. I dug about the place he fell, and found no bigger than my thumb, a fragment of the splintered shell, in warm aluminum. I melted it, and made a mould, and poured it in the opening, and worked it, when the cast was cold, into a shapely ring. And when my ring was smooth and bright, holding it on a rounded stick, for seal I bade a Turco write Maktub in Arabic. Maktub, 'tis written. So they think, these children of the desert, who from its immense expanses drink some of its grandeur too. Within the book of destiny, whose leaves are time, whose cover space, the day when you shall cease to be, the hour, the mode, the place, are marked, they say, and you shall not, by taking thought or using wit, alter that certain fate one jot, postpone, or conjure it. Learn to drive fear, then, from your heart. If you must perish, know, O man, 'tis an inevitable part of the predestined plan. And, seeing that through the ebon door, once only you may pass, and meet of those that have gone through before, the mighty, the elite. Guard that, not bowed nor blanched with fear, you enter, but serene, erect, as you would wish most to appear to those you most respect. So die as though your funeral ushered you through the doors that led into a stately banquet hall, where heroes banqueted. And it shall all depend therein, whether you come as slave or lord, if they acclaim you as their kin, or spurn you from their board. So, when the order comes, attack, and the assaulting wave deploys, and the heart trembles to look back on life and all its joys, or in a ditch that they seem near to find, and round your shallow trough drop the big shells that you can hear coming a half-mile off. When, not to hear, some try to talk, and some to clean their guns, or sing, and some dig deeper in the chalk, I look upon my ring. And nerves relax that were most tense, and death comes whistling down unheard, as I consider all the sense held in that mystic word. And it brings, quieting like balm, my heart whose flutterings have ceased, the resignation and the calm and wisdom of the East. End of Maktub by Alan Seeger. Read for LibriVox.org by Raven Notation.
There's Another Blessed Horse Fell Down by A. B. Banjo Patterson. Read for LibriVox.org by Son of the Exiles. There's another blessed horse fell down. When you're lying in your hammock, sleeping soft and sleeping sound, without a care or trouble on your mind, and there's nothing to disturb you but the engines going round, and you're dreaming of the girl you left behind. In the middle of your joys you'll be wakened by a noise and a clatter on the deck above your crown, and you'll hear the corporal shout as he turns the picket out, "There's another blessed horse fell down." You can see 'em in the morning when you're cleaning out the stall, a-leaning on the railings nearly dead, and you reckon by the evening they'll be pretty sure to fall, and you curse them as you tumble into bed. Oh, you'll hear it pretty soon, pass the word for Denny Moon, "There's a horse here throwing handsprings like a clown, and it's shove the others back or he'll cripple half the pack. There's another blessed horse fell down." And when the war is over and the fighting is all done, and you're all at home with medals on your chest, and you've learnt to sleep so soundly that the firing of a gun at your bedside wouldn't rob you of your rest, as you lie and slumber deep, if your wife walks in her sleep and tumbles down the stairs and breaks her crown, oh, it won't awaken you, for you'll say, "It's nothing new, it's another blessed horse fell down." End of There's Another Blessed Horse Fell Down by A. B. Banjo Patterson. This recording is in the public domain.
The White Comrade by Robert Haven Schaufler. Read for LibriVox by Marianne. The White Comrade, after W. H. Letham's The Comrade in White. Under our curtain of fire, over the clotted clods, we charged, to be withered, to reel and despairingly wheel when the bugles bade us retire from the terrible odds. As we ebbed with the battle tide, fingers of red-hot steel suddenly closed on my side. I fell and began to pray. I crawled on my hands and lay where a shallow crater yawned wide. Then I swooned. When I awoke, it was yet day. Fierce was the pain of my wound, but I saw it was death to stir, for 50 paces away their trenches were. In torture I prayed for the dark and the stealthy step of my friend, who, staunch to the very end, would creep to the danger zone and offer his life as a mark to save my own. Night fell. I heard his tread, not stealthy, but firm and serene, as if my comrade's head were lifted far from that scene of passion and pain and dread, as if my comrade's heart in carnage took no part, as if my comrade's feet were set on some radiant street such as no darkness might haunt, as if my comrade's eyes no deluge of flame could surprise, no death and destruction daunt, no red-beaked bird dismay, nor sight of decay. Then in the bursting shell's dim light I saw he was clad in white. For a moment I thought that I saw the smock of a shepherd in search of his flock. Alert were the enemy, too, and their bullets flew straight at a mark no bullet could fail. For the seeker was tall and his robe was bright, but he did not flee nor quail. Instead, with unhurrying stride he came, and gathering my tall frame, like a child, in his arms. Again I swooned, and awoke from a blissful dream in a cave by a stream. My silent comrade had bound my side. No pain now was mine, but a wish that I spoke, a mastering wish to serve this man who had ventured through hell my doom to revoke, as only the truest of comrades can. I begged him to tell me how best I might aid him, and urgently prayed him never to leave me, whatever betide, when I saw he was hurt, shot through the hands that were clasped in prayer. Then, as the dark drops gathered there and fell in the dirt, the wounds of my friend seemed to me such as no man might bear. Those bullet holes in the patient hands seemed to transcend all horrors that ever these war-drenched lands had known or would know till the mad world's end. Then suddenly I was aware that his feet had been wounded too, and, dimming the white of his side, a dull stain grew. "You are hurt, white comrade," I cried. His words I already foreknew. "These are old wounds," said he, "but of late they have troubled me." End of The White Comrade, by Robert Haven Schaufler. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain.
Im Osten von Georg Trakl, gelesen für LibriVox.org. Den wilden Orgeln des Wintersturms gleicht des Volkes finstrer Zorn. Die purpurne Woge der Schlacht entlaubte Sterne. Mit zerbrochenen Brauen, silbernen Armen winkt sterbenden Soldaten die Nacht. Im Schatten der herbstlichen Esche seufzen die Geister der Erschlagenen. Dornige Wildnis umgürtet die Stadt. Von blutenden Stufen jagt der Mond die erschrockenen Frauen. Wilde Wölfe brachen durchs Tor. Ende von Im Osten von Georg Trakl. Aufgenommen von Ruth Golding.
Edith Cavell by Lawrence Binyon. Read for LibriVox.org by Raven Notation. She was binding the wounds of her enemies when they came, the lint in her hand unrolled. They battered the door with their rifle butts, crashed it in. She faced them, gentle and bold. They held her before the judges where they sat in their places, helmet on head. With question and menace the judges assailed her. "Yes, I have broken your law," she said. "I have tended the hurt and hidden the hunted, have done as a sister does to a brother, because of a law that is greater than that you have made, because I could do none other. Deal as you will with me. This is my choice to the end, to live in the life I vowed. She is self-confessed," they cried. "She is self-condemned. She shall die, that the rest may be cowed." In the terrible hour of the dawn, when the veins are cold, they led her forth to the wall. "I have loved my land," she said, "but it is not enough. Love requires of me all. I will empty my heart of the bitterness, hating none." And sweetness filled her brave with a vision of understanding beyond the hour that knelled to the waiting grave. They bound her eyes, but she stood as if she shone. The rifles it was that shook when the hoarse command rang out. They could not endure that last, that defenceless look. And the officer strode and pistoled her surely, ashamed that men, seasoned in blood, should quail at a woman, only a woman, dead as a flower stamped in the mud. And now that the deed was securely done, in the night when none had known her fate, they answered those that had striven for her, day by day, "It is over, you come too late." And with many words and sorrowful phrased excuse, argued their German right to kill most legally, hard though the duty may be, the law must assert its might. Only a woman, yet she had pity on them, the victim offered slain to the gods of fear that they worship. Leave them there, red hands to clutch their gain. She bewailed not herself, and we will bewail her not, but with tears of pride rejoice that an English soul was found so crystal clear to be triumphant voice of the human heart that dares adventure all, but live to itself untrue, and beyond all laws sees love as the light in the night, as the star it must answer to. The hurts she healed, the thousands comforted, these make a fragrance of her fame. But because she stepped to her star right on through death, it is victory speaks her name. End of Edith Cavell by Lawrence Binyon. This recording is in the public domain.
Op de oorlogsgrens van Albert Verwij. Gelezen voor LibriVox.org door Anna Simon. Duizenden lijken die de landen mesten. Tienduizenden die ziek en kreupel zijn. Veel 100.000 die in nood en pijn hun dakloos dorp of platgebrande vesten verlaten, t zij beladen met de resten van vroegere welvaart of, nooddruftige trein, met enkel het lijf, rillend van het koortsvenijn waar vuil en honger de aderen mee verpesten, Miljoenen troostloos, vrouwen zonder man, kinderen zonder ouders, en de dood overal huiverend als een vale vogel. Zo is deze oorlog. Wie ontkomen kan, bedreigd, of anderen moordend met de kogel, ziet land van bloed, van vuur de hemel rood. Einde van Op de oorlogsgrens van Albert Verwij. Deze opname is vrij van auteursrechten.
Anthem for Doomed Youth by Wilfred Owen. Read for LibriVox.org by Alan Mapstone. What passing bells for those who die as cattle! Only the monstrous anger of the guns, only the stuttering rifles' rapid rattle can patter out their hasty orisons. No mockeries for them, no prayers nor bells, nor any voice of mourning save the choirs, the shrill demented choirs of wailing shells, and bugles calling for them from sad shires. What candles may be held to speed them all? Not in the hands of boys, but in their eyes shall shine the holy glimmers of good-byes. The pallor of girls' brows shall be their pall, their flowers the tenderness of patient minds, and each slow dusk a drawing down of blinds. End of Anthem for Doomed Youth by Wilfred Owen. This recording is in the public domain.
The Price of Peace by Henry Van Dyke. Read for LibriVox.org by Sky Albatross. Peace without justice is a low estate, a coward cringing to an iron fate. But peace through justice is the great ideal. We'll pay the price of war to make it real. End of The Price of Peace by Henry Van Dyke. This recording is in the public domain.
To E.T. by Robert Frost. Read for LibriVox.org by Winston Tharp. I slumbered with your poems on my breast spread open as I dropped them half-read through, like dove-wings on a figure on a tomb, to see if in a dream they brought of you I might not have the chance I missed in life through some delay, and call you to your face, first soldier, and then poet, and then both, who died a soldier-poet of your race. I meant, you meant, that nothing should remain unsaid between us, brother, and this remained, and one thing more that was thought then to say, the victory for what it lost and gained. You went to meet the shell's embrace of fire on Vimy Ridge, and when you fell that day, the war seemed over more for you than me, but now for me than you, the other way. How over, though, for even me who knew the foe thrust back unsafe beyond the Rhine, if I was not to speak of it to you, and see you pleased once more with words of mine. End of To E.T. by Robert Frost. This recording is in the public domain.
Does It Matter? By Siegfried Sassoon. Read for LibriVox.org by Lynn Thompson. Does it matter? Losing your legs? For people will always be kind, and you need not show that you mind when the others come in after football to gobble their muffins and eggs. Does it matter, losing your sight? There's such splendid work for the blind, and people will always be kind, as you sit on the terrace remembering and turning your face to the light. Do they matter, those dreams from the pit? You can drink and forget and be glad, and people won't say that you're mad, for they'll know that you've fought for your country, and no one will worry a bit. End of Does It Matter? By Siegfried Sassoon. This recording is in the public domain.
Aan die komen van C.S. Adema van Scheltema. Gelezen voor LibriVox.org door Anna Simon. Gedenkt, gij kinderen van vrede, bloemen aan de boom van geluk. Gedenkt het vreselijk verleden, gedenkt die de aarden voor u kneden als de wortelen van uw geluk. Gedenkt, gij lachenden, levensblijden, het geluid op aarde van de schrik, en luistert aan de afgrond der tijden naar de kreet van die uw ziel bereiden als naar de echo van een snik. Gedenkt, gij gezegenden en gezonden, hen die vielen voor uw blijde eeuw. Zie hun gelaat en wilde wonden, zie het zwarte gat hunner monden, nog open voor een laatste schreeuw. Gedenkt gij de smekende ogen en al de stamelende pijn, van die, verbrijzeld en bloedovertogen, langzaam de donkere dood inzogen. Gedenkt gij die uw verlossers zijn. Gedenkt gij de dreun van hun schreden, tast terug in de donkere vloed van die de ijzeren strijd voor u streden. Tast terug in het zinkend verleden dat uw hand nog drupt van hun bloed. Gedenkt die, wat zij deden en zagen, nimmer meer wisten uit hun geest, die door al hun gruwelijke dagen aller gruwelen bleven dragen. Gedenkt de gewonden van geest. Gedenkt ons die allen vochten. Gedenkt ons aller bitteren strijd. Gedenkt ons die de weg voor u zochten. Gedenkt ons die nog niet vinden mochten. Gedenkt, gedenkt onze blinde tijd. Aan die komen van C.S. Adema van Scheltema. Deze opname is vrij van auteursrechten.
The Healers by Lawrence Binyon. Read for LibriVox.org. In a vision of the night I saw them, in the battles of the night. Mid the roar and the reeling shadows of blood, they were moving like light. Light of the reason, guarded tense within the will. As a lantern under a tossing of boughs burns steady and still. With scrutiny calm, and with fingers patient as swift, they bind up the hurts, and the pain-writhen bodies uplift. Untired and defenseless, around them with shrieks in its breath, bursts stark from the terrible horizon impersonal death. But they take not their courage from anger that blinds the hot being. They take not their pity from weakness, tender yet seeing. Feeling yet nerved to the uttermost, keen like steel. Yet the wounds of the mind they are stricken with, who shall heal? They endure to have eyes of the watcher in hell, and not swerve for an hour from the faith that they follow, the light that they serve. Man true to man, to his kindness that overflows all, to his spirit erect in the thunder when all his forts fall. This light, in the tiger-mad welter, they serve and they save. What song shall be worthy to sing of them, braver than the brave? End of The Healers by Lawrence Binyon. This recording is in the public domain.
Might and Right by Henry Van Dyke. Read for LibriVox.org by Sky Albatross. If might made right, life were a wild beast's cage. If right made right, this were the golden age. but now, until we win the long campaign, right must gain might to conquer and to reign. End of Might and Right by Henry Van Dyke. This recording is in the public domain.
To His Love by Ivor Gurney. Read for LibriVox.org by Martin Geeson. He's gone, and all our plans are useless indeed. We'll walk no more on Cotswolds, where the sheep feed quietly and take no heed. His body that was so quick is not as you knew it, on Severn River under the blue, driving our small boat through. You would not know him now, but still he died nobly, so cover him over with violets of pride, purple from Severn side. Cover him soon, and with thick set masses of memoried flowers, hide that red wet thing I must somehow forget. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Harvest Moon by Josephine Preston Peabody. Read for LibriVox by Marianne. Over the twilight field, over the glimmering field and bleeding furrows, with their sodden yield of sheaves that still did writhe after the scythe. The teeming field, and darkly overstrewn with all the garnered fullness of that noon. Two looked upon each other. One was a woman men had called their mother, and one the harvest moon. And one the harvest moon who stood, who gazed on those unquiet gleanings where they bled, till the lone woman said, "But we were crazed. We should laugh now together, I and you, we two. You, for your ever dreaming it was worth a star's while to look on and light the earth. And I, for ever telling to my mind glory it was, and gladness, to give birth to humankind. I gave the breath, and thought it not amiss. I gave the breath to men, for men to slay again. Lording it over anguish, all to give my life, that men might live for this. You will be laughing now, remembering we called you once dead world and barren thing. Yes, so we called you then, you, far more wise than to give life to men. Over the field that there gave back the skies a scattered upward stare from sightless eyes, the furrowed field that lay striving awhile, through many a bleeding dune of throbbing clay, but dumb and quiet soon, she looked and went her way, the harvest moon. End of The Harvest Moon by Josephine Preston Peabody. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain.